pricing really describes the different ways of charging the use of a road. So there are various types of road using pricing, such as cordon pricing, distance-based charging, area pricing, managed lanes, flat rate tolling, and full facility tolling. States and regions, cities aim to transition to clean energy future. Many are searching for new transportation strategies and funding mechanisms. And pricing mechanisms like gas tax revenue or the Highway Trust Fund revenues are decreasing due to the energy efficiency of modern cars and the growing uptake and adoption of electric vehicles. As states rush to find a solution for a long-term replacement for gas tax revenue, major equity considerations should be considered. So studies show that lower income households generally pay a larger portion of their expenditure on transportation. As people move up in income brackets, they pay a smaller portion on transportation. So an equitable contribution to transportation funding and subsidies that do not benefit those who rely more on affordable and accessible transportation is why equity parameters and mobility justice frameworks are crucial when considering road pricing systems. So low-income households routinely face economic challenges. A change in cost can highly impact low-income commuters. A lot of data on the average annual household expenditure in 2021 shows that housing accounted for the highest share, 33%, followed by transportation at 16% and food at 12% of expenditures. We know that historically low income and Black, Indigenous, people of color have borne the brunt of negative transportation planning, such as the construction of highway systems that have divided communities, the negative impact of high levels of exposure to traffic, pollution, and diesel emission, or the disinvestment in the same communities that result in a lack of access to safe, reliable, and high-quality transportation options to get to work, school, and overall resources. It's important to consider equity for road user charges. So in 2019, Transform created the Pricing Roads Advancing Equity report and toolkit that aims to help communities advance a more equitable and affordable transportation system. They propose that structural inequality in our transportation system may be partially remedied by effective equitable road pricing. In their report, they outline what should be considered with road pricing. That includes affordability, which is evaluate how road pricing will impact the budget of low-income communities, access to opportunity, which is ensuring pricing strategies do not negatively affect communities' mobility and access to resources in their communities if drivers choose to avoid price roads. Access to technology, which is ensuring low-income households and BIPOC communities have access to technological devices that are convenient for them, as well as community health. So investing funding into low-income and BIPOC communities for transit investment and bike and pedestrian infrastructure. And as of 2022, 14 states and regional pilots, including California, Delaware, Hawaii, Kansas, Minnesota, Missouri, New Hampshire, Ohio, Oregon, Texas, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming, have received federal grants to explore alternative funding mechanisms such as road user charges. And in the brief, you can read a little bit more on how Oregon, Washington, and California have explored road user charges as an alternative funding mechanism. In October of 2022, we hosted a roundtable discussion with over 10 equity and transportation advocates and policy practitioners from Oregon, Washington, and California. And the roundtable provided a peer-sharing opportunity to better prepare states to participate more confidently in the conversations of road user charges and pricing mechanism. This discussion was curated in collaboration with VERDE, an environmental justice organization from Oregon, incorporating topics such as road user charges, landscape review, equity concerns, and opportunities for transportation funding. And the key concerns and takeaways from the roundtable discussion with state advocates and practitioners are that RUC is a new emerging topic, and there are still more questions than answers. Second, equity and mobility justice are not at the forefront of many of these road user charges conversations. There's also an insufficient inclusion of community-based organizations in road user conversations. There's challenges in aligning priorities on how the revenue will be spent and who gets to decide that. There are impacts of road user charges for long distance. So thinking about rural and tribal commuters who rely on driving. So thinking about what are those impacts for long distance. There is also a lack of public awareness of road user charges. Most people don't know about RUC or haven't heard of it. There's also dependency on cars and driving for revenue. I think the focus here at the end of the day is on cars. So a lot of folks are concerned about what does that mean when we depend on cars to maintain the revenue and infrastructure. And lastly, there is a need to activate an interstate network. I think folks are having these conversations on road user charges in their own states, in their own local cities. But there is a need to activate more interstate network. Highways run throughout each state, so there's definitely concerns on how to collaborate more on that. If designed well with equity goals to guide road user pricing studies, RUC can benefit low-income communities. Thoughtful, equitable development will allow states to replicate and scale transportation funding mechanisms so that they can aid the transition to a clean transportation future that centers equity. If you're interested in joining the discussion and or reading more on road user charges, please visit our website at justsolutionscollective.org.